everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the best settings to be using in Hyper Scape if you play on a controller, whether you play on PC with a controller or on console. Today this video is for you, and all of you guys that have been commenting on my latest videos saying what is your sensitivity, please tell me your sensitivity. I've got you guys. Most of the settings should be kept as a default as they're the best options, but the ones that shouldn't be kept as a default are the ones we're going to be speaking about today. Things such as your sensitivity, your dead zones, all of that good stuff. Now, if you do enjoy today's video, be sure to scroll down, click the like button. Let's try and aim for 500 likes on today's video. We absolutely smashed last video, so if we could hit 500 likes, that would be awesome. And be sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any future Hyper Scape videos and also Rogue Company videos in the near future. But now, with that out of the way, let's jump into our settings. So just to start off, I want to get this one out of the way. I have my vibration turned off. I hate my controller vibrating. I'm not sure if it has an effect on your aim, but the fact that your controller's moving whilst you're trying to aim as precisely as possible, I don't think it does any favors. So if you've currently got vibration on, be sure to turn it off and you might have a better time, but this is more of a personal preference. So let's talk about a vertical and horizontal sensitivity. Now mine is currently at 30-30. Now this game have given us a vertical option, which makes sense bearing in mind this game is focused on verticality. I cannot even get my words out. Now because we're talking about sensitivity, I just want to jump in training with you guys and talk more about the current sensitivity. So my settings are at 30-30, and the reason why they offer you a vertical sensitivity, as I said earlier, is because this game is focused on such verticality. Now not many games offer you a vertical sensitivity, and by default the vertical sensitivity will be much lower than the horizontal sensitivity. You probably might have noticed it in other first-person shooter games. So the reason why I have my horizontal and vertical sensitivity the exact same is because it gives you much more freedom when you're aiming, especially when you're hip firing as well. But I honestly think having the same vertical and horizontal is the best way to go because it gives you more freedom and more accuracy if you're trying to aim in them diagonal situations. And in this game, people can be jumping all over your screen, so in my opinion, having the same vertical and horizontal sensitivity makes sense. If you're completely unsure on what sensitivity to be using, what I recommend doing is start between 30 and 40, and then what you want to be doing is you want to be increasing it by 5 or decreasing it by 5 until you find that sweet spot. So let's say there's an enemy to your right and you're pulling over the enemy, and then you have to readjust your aim. Your sensitivity might be a little bit too high. If you find yourself having to readjust your aim and you find yourself over aiming past the enemy, then that means your sensitivity might be a bit high and you want to decrease it by 5, and then you can start doing the micro adjustments by decreasing it by 1 or 2. But you want to find that region in which you feel very comfortable. It might be towards the 35-40 region, or it might be towards the 25-30 region like me, and I recommend using the highest sensitivity possible before it starts affecting your aim. Highest sensitivity makes it easier to snap onto targets. Bearing in mind this game is completely fast paced, you want to have the highest sensitivity possible without affecting your aim. Are you guys still with me? Good. Let's continue. Now when it comes to the ADS low zoom sensitivity and the high zoom sensitivity, I have mine both at 22. Now this is the craziest thing. By default, I believe it was at 75 or something like that, and it was extremely high. So if you're struggling with aiming and you're a new player, I would recommend taking a look at your sensitivity, specifically the aiming down sight one, because by default this thing was at like 75 and it was impossible to land any shots. Under aiming and over aiming are the things you want to be looking out for. So if there's an enemy to your right, for example, and you find yourself aiming past the target too much, then your sensitivity is a bit too high, and vice versa. If you find yourself not reaching the target by the time you're shooting, you might want to increase it. Now the last tip I want to give with sensitivity is that you want to stick to one sensitivity and try and get used to it, because if you keep messing around with sensitivities, you're not giving your fingers enough time to learn the muscle memory and get used to that sensitivity. And if anything, changing around your sensitivity constantly, it can make you a worse player, and you really don't want to be doing that. You want to stick to one sensitivity and just try and get used to that sense. Now the dead zones is another really important thing, because by default I believe the dead zones are at 50, which is actually crazy. Now you want to be lowering the dead zone as much as possible. The least you can do is 5, and if they one day release an update where you can have 0 as an option for dead zones, I will be using that straight away. So the dead zone is how far out you have to move your stick before it creates an input. So if we put our dead zone up to 50, I'm going to show you guys how it is. Okay, so as you can see here, if we have our dead zone around 40 or 50, when we move our right stick, we're not getting any input at all. So this means that in the micro adjustments you're doing in your aim, game, they're not being picked up at all in game. Look how far we have to move out before we get an input. It's actually crazy. Even if we move it like this, we're not getting anything on the screen. We have to move it almost to them outer sides before we get any sort of input. After watching this video, be sure to change your dead zones ASAP. Oh my god, I've just put my dead zones to 40 and it's just crazy how far out you have to move your sticks for it to detect an input. So this means that in them small micro adjustments you're doing in your aim, they're not being picked up at all. So that means the lower the dead zone is going to give you more accuracy. So make sure you put that on 5 to everyone watching this video. I think this is something I think everyone should be changing. This is not something that's personal preference. I think this is something that can be the deciding factor on whether you get the kill because of your good aiming or whether you don't because the game didn't detect an input. So the last thing I want to talk about is your button layout. Now, I think they've given us 5 presets, 4 or 5 presets, and to be honest, they're all quite bad. There is not one preset that gives you the option to jump with your right stick, and jumping is probably the most important movement in this game. Bearing in mind, a lot of the time you're jumping to get onto roofs and you're jumping to get to different positions. So being able to jump whilst maintaining your aim at the same time is one of the most important things to do, and it gives you such an advantage. So because Hyper Scape haven't given us an option to customize our button layout, you can actually customize your button layout through the PS4 settings. So if you play on PS4 and go over to your settings, there will be an accessibility option. Click on accessibility and then there's going to be button assignments. If you click on button assignments, you can customize all of your controls that way. And you can basically change your R3 with your X. So your R3 is going to be to jump. And once you change this, you're going to have so much more fun playing Hyper Scape because you can maintain your aim and jump at the same time, and it just feels that much better. You can also do this on Xbox, and I don't know anything about Xbox, so I'm just going to read what I see on this website, and hopefully you Xbox players will be able to follow. First, head to My Games and Apps on your Xbox One. Select Apps on the left side of the screen and launch the Xbox Accessories app. This app is installed by default. You'll see your connected controller here and you can select configure to continue. If you have more than one controller connected at once, you can use the left and right buttons on the directional pad to select controller you want to configure. Choose a button mapping on the left side of your screen. You can always come back here and select restore defaults to restore your controller to its default settings later. There you go, all of you Xbox players. So I'm going to wrap this video up here. I just wanted to focus this video mainly on sensitivities, dead zones, all of that good stuff, because I know how many of you guys have been asking me what my sensitivity is, what the best sensitivity is to be using. All I can say is a lot of patience is needed to get good at this game, and I wish all of you guys the best of luck in doing that. Nonetheless, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thank you all for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and as always, I'll catch all of you guys out in another brand new Hyper Scape video.